There was a time when everything seemed fine on the surface. Life was moving, days were passing, nothing was technically wrong. And yet, there was a quiet sense that something was missing, not enough to complain about, not strong enough to explain. Just a feeling that stayed in the background of every day. He kept telling himself that this feeling would disappear later, when life slowed down, when things made more sense, when he finally reached whatever he was working toward. But that later never really arrived. And maybe you know this feeling too, not because your life is broken, but because your attention has been living somewhere else. There was nothing dramatic about his days. They were ordinary, predictable, filled with routine. And maybe that was the problem. When something repeats long enough, we stop seeing it. We stop noticing the way life quietly carries us forward. He began measuring his days by what they lacked: more clarity, more success, more motivation. And the more he focused on what was missing, the heavier everything felt. At some point, he noticed something strange. The moments that once felt important were passing without leaving a mark. Conversations happened, but they didn't stay. Days ended, but they didn't feel lived. Life wasn't rushing past him. He was rushing past life. Gratitude wasn't something he thought about back then. It felt like a word meant for happier people, for people who had fewer problems, for people whose lives looked more complete. But one quiet moment changed the way he saw it. It wasn't a big realization, no dramatic shift, no sudden clarity, just a simple awareness. He realized that most of what was holding his life together had never asked for attention. The days that showed up even when he didn't feel ready, the stability that stayed even when motivation disappeared, the small, ordinary supports that never demanded recognition, they had always been there. And because they were always there, he had stopped seeing them. That's when he understood something quietly powerful. Gratitude was never about celebrating perfection. It was about noticing what remained steady even when everything else felt uncertain. He had been waiting for life to become easier before allowing himself to feel at peace. But peace wasn't waiting for life to change. It was waiting for his attention to return. And maybe this is where your story overlaps with his. Maybe nothing is terribly wrong. Maybe life hasn't failed you. Maybe you've just been standing too far away from what's quietly supporting you. Gratitude didn't remove his struggles. It didn't solve every question, but it softened the way those struggles lived inside him. It reminded him that even on difficult days, something was still holding him up. He didn't stop wanting more from life. Growth still mattered, dreams still existed, but he stopped abandoning the present while chasing the future. Gratitude didn't arrive as excitement. It arrived as steadiness, as a calm understanding that life did not need to be escaped, to be appreciated. And maybe tonight, you don't need to change anything. Maybe you don't need answers. Maybe you just need to notice what has quietly stayed while your attention wandered elsewhere. Because peace does not appear when life becomes perfect. It appears when you finally see what never left.